feel like I'm dead in my eyes. So sorry if I'm like looking like glazed, like a White Walker, just a little out of it today. Kind of had a bad day at work, so I'm just like in this like mode of like, don't let this milk you all day, but I still feel like bad. So I should be good. I wanted to do a videos to feel better. I've got my root beer here, so should be in a better mood after this. And today we are going to be talking about brands that flat out bore me. I mean, these are like, I'm just like, ugh, not interested. This doesn't mean that these brands aren't good brands or that their products aren't quality or XYZ, that they don't have interesting products or what it will ever make. No, I'm just saying, in my opinion, from what I have seen from these companies so far, I'm just personally not interested in any of those products. I don't feel like they will work for me. The ideas of them just aren't interesting. Their packaging is boring. XYZ. For one reason or another, I'm just not into these brands. Please don't hate me, brands. I think this one is no surprise, and it is Tarte Cosmetics. Now, Tarte Cosmetics honestly used to be one of my favorite brands, and I used to love them because their products were so quality. I used to use them all the time. I had the Tartelette In Bloom palette, and I use that like constantly. Like there are big dents in like most of those pans. However, recently, as my makeup preferences have changed and as brands have learned to compete with each other, I've just found that Tarte simply cannot keep up. And recently they released this, I think it's their Pro Remix palette, which was sneak peeked pretty recently, and it's kind of a rainbow palette. It's pretty much, in my opinion, Tarte's reaction to everyone calling them boring, but somehow this is still boring. I think they just don't understand that throwing a bunch of mismatched colors into a single palette doesn't exactly make it an interesting palette. Their palettes aren't right. They don't seem to have it together as a brand. Just kind of their products don't seem to have a lot of hold on the makeup community anymore. I mean, Tarte Shape Tape is supposedly a classic. Personally, it doesn't work very well for me. However, other people really love it. I think it's been slowing down along with, you know, the release of the Jouer concealers, as well as other, you know, the Too Faced Born This Way multitasking concealer. You know, there's just other companies now, and it's just not as exciting. And I remember when they used to never put it on sale, and recently they have been kind of frequently. So I think Tarte is just kind of falling apart as a brand, and that they're just barely holding on. And I'm a little bored with them. None of their products, I feel like it's just, they're just grasping at straws at this point. So Lorac Cosmetics, or just Lorac, I'm not sure if they're called Lorac Cosmetics or not. They've kind of been a brand that I've not had a lot of interest in. I remember very briefly, like when I was first getting into makeup, being really interested in the Mega Pro 2, which was their blue Mega Pro palette. And I think I was really interested in it because it was a big palette and it came with all these shades. And I don't know. At that time, though, it was pretty easy to impress me. And again, there wasn't a lot of like big makeup palettes or a lot of like variety in the makeup community. However, now looking back, I'm so glad I didn't buy that palette. I'm glad I never bought any of the Lorac palettes. I just don't feel like any of them have really decent color stories. I don't feel like any of them really speak to me. I don't think I would have gotten use out of any of them, and that includes the Unzipped and the Unzipped Gold and their Sunset palettes and their Desert palettes and like just all of them. None of them appealed to me. And there was one time I think they did like a pastel collection, and that was pretty interesting, and that was different, I think, for the time, but it just didn't catch on. And even then, that palette, like, it wasn't as interesting as it could have been. I just feel like Lorac is not necessarily for, I don't know, my makeup preferences and maybe people like me, I guess. I think they're kind of a little more geared toward like the Estee Lauder and almost like the benefit community, where it's kind of like older women who just want very particular items. But at the same time, it also feels like Lorac really does try to have relevance in the beauty community when honestly, they just don't seem to get it. They just seem to be releasing kind of the same stuff over and over again. And it's just not anything new. Since I already name dropped Benefit, let's go ahead and talk about them because I do have a lot to say about Benefit. Now, Benefit honestly used to have some serious relevance, and I think it was primarily for their box blushes because they were so iconic. They were an iconic look and they were an iconic product, and that typically went for all of them. I think primarily, I heard mostly Hoola, Rockateur, some Dandelion, and then they used to have another one, and I can't think of what it's called. I remember California had a pretty big prominence when it came out, but since then they have just been kind of flailing their arms, trying to get back into the sky, but not exactly flying. They're just kind of dragging themselves along, it seems like. They recently released this Vanity Flare palette, which is honestly the most heinous, hideous, god-awful thing I have ever seen. It really should have just been maybe a duo, because it's just like a variation of the same two shades. Like, it's got like a dark mid-tone brown, maybe not necessarily dark, and then it's kind of like a tan beigey color. So it's just very boring. And I know who that's geared toward, and it's just kind of like, it seems like Benefit is just not on the ball at all. They're releasing a ton of sets. They release sets every year, like far too many. They seem to be just repurposing their same old mascara into different packagings, and they're not making anything that's interesting or new. And I remember their foundation was a big dud because their shade range was so awful, and it was just not exciting. It wasn't important, and the packaging was just kind of basic and standard. So Benefit honestly it used to not bore me. I was interested in it. I remember I really wanted the Hervana blush. I have the Sugar Bomb blush, and it just seemed like such an I don't know, like it was a popular brand. And I remember like being, 17, 18 and going like, oh, that just seems so cool to have a Benefit something or other. But honestly, now it just seems like Sears makeup. Two brands that honestly, for some reason, constantly remind me of each other are Pure and Bare Minerals. Now, neither one of these have ever interested me. I mean, never, never, ever, ever. Bare Minerals has always kind of been a brand that's just kind of like, for some reason, always makes me think of like legitimate adults doing things. Like middle-aged women who just want like a nice, high-quality thing that will work, and it's like very, conservative and whatever, I don't know. That's always what it made me think of, because it was all the same like powder mineral foundations and very beigey, taupey eyeshadows, and Pure kind of seemed to be the same thing. I think Pure had a little more innovation than Bare Minerals does. However, they both just, to me, seem to be like the same stuff repackaged over and over again, and I've never been interested in them. They just don't seem to have anything that's new or exciting. They just, again, the same old stuff over and over and over again. The brand Pretty Vulgar from Sephora, it's just another brand that doesn't seem to get me in any way, which is weird because it's very like fixated on packaging and like pun kind of names, and like it seems like it would be right up anyone's alley, or my alley particularly, and it's just not. I have 3 Pretty Vulgar products. I got rid of the eyeshadow palette. I got them all in BoxyCharm, and I got a blush and I have an eyeliner from them, and I kept those, and I've gotten rid of my eyeshadow palette. I haven't even touched it. I knew I was never gonna touch it. It was the most like neutral beigey mess I had ever seen. I hated the packaging with like this bird cage. Not for me. They have other ones that are like in the same packaging, but they're different color stories, and those two just seem to be so bland and tasteless that it was just, I wasn't like, the packaging wasn't even cute either. It was just all a big wreck to me. And the brand as in general, it just doesn't seem, I don't know. I just feel like it just is all a reach. It just all is just such a reach. Like it's trying too hard. And I'm not interested in any of it. I've never wanted to try anything from them. Their concealer, their brow gel, their highlighters, and they have like a huge array of products, and they all seem to be pretty decent. But I don't know. I don't want it. Like, I don't know what it is about this brand particularly. I just don't care about them. I don't care about them. I don't want to spend my money on them. To me, for some reason, Model's Own is like the Ulta version of Pretty Vulgar. I mean, their packaging isn't as like cutesy as the Pretty Vulgar one is. They definitely have like more sleek white packaging than Pretty Vulgar. However, I don't know. Model's Own just, I don't know. They had like an all glitter palette that I was interested in, and that was kind of the most exciting thing I had ever seen from them. And I did have a highlighter by them, but I hated it. I mean, like despised it, so I got rid of it. It wasn't like that it was bad quality, but the color of it was just so gross and it didn't look good on me. I got rid of it. Ultimately, Model's Own, a lot of their stuff seems to be hit and miss. I've seen a couple videos of people reviewing their products and going over them, as well as seeing reviews online, and it's just kind of, it's all very up in the air. And their products are just not exciting. I don't even know if they have any stuff left at Ulta. I can't seem to find them. I don't know, but like nothing about any of it ever got me too excited. I remember thinking like, Their eyeshadow palettes just weren't exciting. They were like really tiny pans in this big white palette, and usually when packaging is wasted like that, I'm immediately like turned off by it. Their primers never excited me. Nothing about their face or complexion products ever excited me. All in all, it was just a brand that was like, I mean, not interesting. Just It Cosmetics, their brushes are cool. Like, I always have to feel their brushes whenever I'm in Ulta. So, like, ignore the It brushes. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about It Cosmetics makeup. I can't bring myself to care about any of it. And I hear great things about almost all of it. And I just don't... I'm not interested. I think I have a total of 1 item from them, and I think it's their Superhero Mascara. I got that in a BoxyCharm. And I also had their Naturally Pretty palette. I decluttered it because I never touched it. I pretty much just bought it because it was on sale, and at the time I was just like trying to hoard as much makeup as I possibly could, and it was truly wasteful of me. I hardly ever touched that palette. I think I used it maybe like 3 times and no more. So I got rid of it. It wasn't bad quality at all. It was just nothing I thought of. When I thought about doing my makeup, I didn't sit down and think to use any of those products. And I think that's how I feel typically when I go to shop at Ulta. Or do they have it at Sephora? I think so. I don't remember. But like, when I think about buying new makeup, they do not come to mind, like, at all. And sometimes I hear about the CC cream, which, I mean, Jamie Page talks about it constantly. And you'd think that would interest me because I love her. And there's several YouTubers, when they recommend something, I'm immediately like phoned in on it. No, not It Cosmetics. No one can seem to hook me on It Cosmetics. I just don't. I don't know if it's just their packaging or their products, but I don't want it. Pass. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the MAC daddy of it all. Get it? Because it's MAC. I miss the days when I used to like crave them and I wanted to buy from them so bad, and I like treasured everything they made. And like, I remember I finally broke down and bought a MAC lipstick, and I have it because I love it. I love gray lipsticks, and it's the shade Deeply Rooted, and it's just like, ugh, it's the most perfect gray. I love it. And I still love that, like, for nostalgic reasons as well as color reasons. And I treasured it. I like wanted all of their lipstick. I like wanted all of their lipsticks. I wanted all of their blushes and all of their eyeshadows. And I remember buying eyeshadows from them. And they were like not great, so that completely turned me off. And then I realized that they just don't make interesting things anymore. Like, they're not I mean, they might still be the primary artist brand. I don't know, because I'm not like huge in like the actual makeup artistry community where people like legitimately like have clients and do it on a mass scale. I mean, I do makeup for other people, but that's very like on a very local level. Whereas, I mean, I'm not like Makeup by Mario or Wayne Goss or something crazy. But when I think about makeup I would want to use on other people, MAC is not what comes to mind at all. I just feel like MAC at this point has become a little iffy, and nothing they release is really that exciting. I mean, and that includes collaborations, that includes holiday sets. It's just not exciting. Now there's a couple things I like by them. Like their Hyper Real Glow palettes are awesome. I have the one in Flash and Awe, and they're just making a peachy one that I can't wait to see. And I mean, like, I have a couple things by them. Actually, I'm not sure if I have any more than that. I think I have that palette, a few of their eyeshadows, and then a highlighter, the Whisper of Guilt highlighter. And I think that's it. But, I mean, at this point, like, I've just grown to love other products and other companies so much more that, like, MAC just isn't even on the radar for me anymore. And every time they do release something, it's just so bland that, like, I can't even be disappointed by it anymore. Like, this was a company that I used to really, like, be, like, honestly enchanted with. And they were so, like, cool and exciting, and if you had a MAC, you know, lipstick in your hand, you were immediately, like, the coolest girl in the room. I don't know. It just was so on trend, and now it's just kind of fallen so flat. So I've just been kind of tired of them, and honestly, hopefully they pick it up, because I think they could still be on top, but they're losing it pretty quickly. Like, honestly, I mean, they're not on top anymore. Alright guys, well I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here because I want to get in the shower and I need to see my boyfriend in a couple of minutes. So thank you guys so much for watching. Honestly, I hope I didn't offend anyone. I'm sure some of these might be y'all's favorite brands, and that's awesome. I really hope that these products or these brands like have products that work for you. But for me, like it's just they've never been that exciting. But I mean, let me know if you have any companies that you don't buy from for one reason or another, and what like kind of products or brands don't interest you, because I would love to hear, because honestly some of y'all may hate brands that I like love, because again, we're all different and all of our makeup preferences, like we're not going to be the same. So I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that, so go ahead and leave those in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.